society na kinabibilangan natin, so may mga batas na dapat tayo sinusunod. So wag na tayo dumayo, doon tayo sa school. Yeah. Sa school, meron tayong batas na sinusunod. So ang tawag sa school yun ay rules and regulations. So dapat you know all the rules and regulations na when you are in A great day to all of you, my dear students. It's great. It's because, again, today, you are going to learn something new. So we are now going to discuss another lesson again here in grade 9 math. So what is our discussion for today? So what would be the title of our discussion for today? So the lesson that we are going to tackle today, since we're through on variation, so we're going to enter now another chapter of our discussion. So this is a chapter about exponents. So this is about zero, negative, and rational exponents. But before we proceed on discussing all those things that we mentioned, so there is a prerequisite that we need to discuss first in order for us to understand the lesson that we are going to tackle about those kinds that we mentioned or those problems which involves exponents. So ano nga ba i-discuss natin for today? So all in all, we are now on lesson number 6. So lesson number 6, we're going to talk about this time as we're going to talk about laws of exponent. So we are here going to discuss the different laws that will help us in order for us to simplify expressions which involves exponents. So paano nga ba natin gawin? Ano ba yung mga different laws na kailangan natin na magagamit natin in order for us to simplify those expressions that I am mentioning to you, which involves exponents. So before we proceed to that, so since we are pertaining to law, ang law, pag sinabi natin law in Tagalog, that's batas. So sa society na kinabibilangan natin, so may mga batas na dapat tayo sinusunod. So wag na tayo dumayo, doon tayo sa school. Yeah. Sa school, meron tayong batas na sinusunod. So ang tawag sa school yun ay rules and regulations. So dapat you know all the rules and regulations na when you are in school. So sa handbook pa lang na binibigay sa inyo, doon pa lang nakalagay na mga dapat at hindi niyo dapat gawin. Kung ano ba yung rules and regulations of the school. So ano ba yung mga dapat gawin niyo sa school o mga hindi dapat niyo gawin sa school? So yun yung mga law na tinatawag natin. Rules in school. So when you are in school, ang goal niyo doon ay mag-aral. Di ba? So when you are going to go around inside the school, marami kang makikita doon na mga ipinagbabawal. Just like for example, may mga nakasulat, no littering. So ibig sabihin, bawal magkalat. So kahit yung single na maliit na balat ng candy, so dapat alam nyo na kung paano gagawin doon. So it's either igay nyo sa bulsa nyo, then pagka-uwi, itapon sa basurahan. Or you can look for a trash can, then put it there. So ganun kasimple. Meron pa, no loitering. Di ba? Meron tayong nakikita nun, no loitering. Bawal ang kumalat-kalat. So when you are in school, umikot-ikot pa together with your friends. So stay in your classroom. So doon ka lang dapat lagi. So what else? Ano ba yung pwede natin makita inside the school? So may makikita pa tayo doon, bawal yung gumamit ng cellphone when the teacher is starting discussing. So dapat alam natin yung mga rules and regulations in school para alam natin yung mga dapat natin gawin. So dapat sinusunod natin yun. Parang pag nasa labas ka, di ba, may nakalagay, no jaywalking. So ibig sabihin, tumawid ka sa tamang tawiran. So wag kang tumawid ng basta-basta ng gusto mo lang. So pumunta ka dun sa yung may guhit-guhit, pedestrian lane, so dun ka dapat tumawid. So para hindi ka ma-charge na jaywalking, di ba? So ganun lang yung mga law. For example, ngayon meron tayong in Makati, we are tawag doon mandatory na dapat pag lumabas ka ng bahay, naka-wear ka ng face mask and face shield. Di ba? Kasi hindi pa rin nawawala yung pandemic, nandiyan pa rin. So we'll never know kung yung virus na yan nasa paligid mo lang. So dapat sundin natin yung mga panuntunan o yung mga batas na ibinibigay sa atin because yung mga yon ay para rin sa ating kapakanan. So, sa inyong kapakanan. So, lahat yun ay ginagawa upang mapabuti kayong lahat. So, just follow the rules, follow the laws, then I don't think magkakaroon ng problema sa hinaharap if you are a good citizen and you are a citizen that is following the laws or following the rules. So, when we are talking about exponents, kung i-relate natin siya, there are also laws involving exponents. So, yun yung tinatawag natin ng laws of exponents. What are those laws that we need to know that will help us in order for us to answer expressions which involves exponent? So, meron tayong basically four laws of exponent or five laws of exponent. So, di-discuss natin siya today. So, ano ba yung mga different laws of exponent yun? So, let's start now. So, una, so we do have what we call laws of exponent. Laws of exponent na number one ay yung tinatawag natin law of exponent for product, or in short, we can call it as the product rule. So, it states that for any real number a and any integers m and n, if a raised to m times the quantity a raised to n, then we come up with an answer which is a raised to m plus n. So what does product rule means? So ganito yon. Product rule means that if you do have a given expression with the same base that was raised to an exponent, all you have to do when you simplify it is to simply copy the base, that same base rather, and add the exponent. So that's what we are going to do if we are going to apply the product rule. Take note, this product rule is only applicable when you are multiplying expressions with same base. So say for example, parehas silang A. Nakikita niyo dyan, parehas A. So even though they do have different exponent, kahit magkaparehas pa exponent nila, so since they do have the same base, all you have to do is to copy that same base, then add the exponent. So that is what product rule means. So next law of exponent is the law of exponent for power of a product rule. So that law of exponent for power of a product rule states that for any real numbers a and b and any integer m, if ab quantity raised to m, then it will become a raised to m, b raised to m. What happened there? So, ganito yung pinatutungkulan ng power of a product rule. So, if we do have a given factors that was raised to an exponent, given factors that was raised to an exponent, and that exponent is outside those two factors. So, all you have to do is to simply distribute that exponent in each of the factors. So, we do have there AB as the factors. Then it was raised to an exponent M outside. So that exponent n is to be distributed in each of the factors inside. So that's why it will become a raised to m, b raised to n. So that's what we mean by power of a product rule. So after power of a product rule, we do have also law of exponent, which is what we call the power of a power rule, or also known as the power rule in short. So power rule states that for any real number a and any integers m and n, then if you do have a raised to m quantity raised to n, then we'll come up with an answer which is a raised to m n. So what happened there? So yung power rule, sinasabi lang, if you do have a given expression or a given term that was raised to an exponent and was raised again to another exponent, then all you have to do is to copy the base, then multiply the exponent. So what we did here is simply we multiply its exponent. So that's what we are going to do with the application of the power rule. Again, power rule, if you do have a given term or expression that was raised to an exponent, then was raised again to another exponent, then it will come up with an answer when we simplify as a raised to m n. So we'll come up with an answer which is simply copying the base, then multiply the exponent. That is what we mean by law of exponent for power, or also known as the power rule. Next, law of exponent for quotient, or in short, we can call it also as the quotient rule. So quotient rule states that for any real number a and any integers m and m is greater than n, so if you do have a raised to m over a raised to n, then we'll come up with an answer as a raised to m minus n. So what does it mean? So if you do have a given expression with the same base and you are dividing it, so all you have to do is you just simply copy that same base, then this time subtract the exponent. So, ibig sabihin na m is greater than n here is m, the value of m there is greater or mas malaki than the value of n. So, if that happens, of course, magkakaroon ka ng positive answer when you subtract m minus n. So again, quotient rule only states that when we do have a given expressions with same base, all we have to do is to just simply copy that same base, then subtract the exponent. So that's what we are going to do when applying the quotient rule. And last law of exponent is the law of exponent for power of a quotient, or also known as the power of a quotient rule. So it states that for any real numbers a and b and any integer m, so if we do have a over b quantity raised to m, then we'll come up with an answer which is a raised to m over b raised to m. So ano yun? So when we do have a given term written in fraction form that was raised to an exponent, so all you have to do with the application of the power of quotient rule is to just simply distribute that exponent on both numerator and denominator, just like what we did here. So yung a over b, yung given expression natin, then it was raised to an exponent outside. So that exponent m is to be distributed on numerator. So we'll come up with a raised to m, and on denominator, so that we'll come up here with b raised to m. So that when we simplify that, we'll come up with an answer which is a raised to m over b raised to m. That is with the application of the power of a quotient rule. So ayan, ginagawa when their base are different. Usually, ginagawa yan when the bases of the numerator and denominator are different. So, yun yung most commonly used na ginagamit natin yung power of a quotient rule. So, ayun yung 5 laws of exponent na kailangan natin tandaan that will help us in order for us to solve expressions which involves exponent. Ano nga ulit yung mga yon? Una, we do have the what we call product rule. Pangalawa, we do have the what we call power of a product rule. Then third, pangatlo, we call that as the power rule. Then pang-apat, we do have the quotient rule. Then the fifth one, so we call that fifth one as the power of quotient rule. So dapat alam natin yung mga laws of exponent na yon kasi sa mga susunod nating lesson, magagamit natin yung mga different laws of exponent na yon. So i-apply natin siya. So kaya nga, we need to discuss it first So para malaman yung different laws of exponent so that you can apply it whenever you are solving a certain expressions when involving exponent. So, now, para mas malinawan pa tayo about the different laws of exponent, let's apply that through examples. So, ano ba yung application ng laws of exponent? So, let's have here example number 1. In example number 1, we do have here a given x raised to 5 times x raised to 4 is equal to what? So what that's is equal to blank. So what are we going to do there? So we are here multiplying two expressions with same base. So multiplication. So when we multiply two expressions with same base, kahit ilang expressions pa yan, so as long as they do have the same base, so all you have to do is to copy the same base. So ang same base nila ay x, both bases are x, then all you have to do is to add the exponent with the application of the product rule. Di ba? When we discuss product rule, sinabi natin, when you are multiplying expressions with same base, just simply copy the base, then add the exponent. So that's why if you are going to simplify this expression, x raised to 5 times x raised to 4, you'll come up with an answer, which is x raised to 9. Copy that same base x, then add the exponent. That's 5 plus 4 equal to 9. So that's how we answer example number 1. Any questions so far? So let's try another example. So let's have example number 2. So this time we do have a given term that was raised to an exponent and was raised again to another exponent. So the given is 5 raised to 2, quantity raised to 2. So what are we going to do to simplify it? So in this given example, the law of exponent that we are going to apply is the law of exponent for power or the what we call power rule. Bakit tinawag na power rule? Because meron ko exponent inside and you do have also an exponent outside or power of a power. Diba? Kaya ka tinawag na law of exponent for power of a power or power rule in short. So what we are going to do there, sabi natin kapag ganun yung law of exponent natin, when you do have that term with an exponent that was raised again to another exponent, just simply copy the base, then multiply the exponent. So pag ginawa natin yon, pag kinopy natin yung base, that's 5, then multiply the exponent, that's 2 times 2. That would be 4. So magiging 5 raised to 4. Since your base is a constant, that means 5 raised to 4 is not yet the simplified form because we can still expand 5 raised to 4. So ano ba expanded form of 5 raised to 4? That is using 5 4 times as factors. That would be 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. So ano ba yung answer when we expand it? So we do have 5 times 5, we do have 25 times 5, that is 125 times 5 is equal to 625. So that's why when you simplify 5 squared quantity raised to 2, it will be equal to 625. Take note that we are only doing that if your base is a constant. So, not unlike itong example number 1 natin eh. Kasi yung example number 1 natin, ang base niya ay x, it's a variable. So, even if we expand it, nothing happens. So, magiging x raised to 9 pa rin siya when we come up with an answer. But in the case of number 2, pag in-expand natin 5 raised to 4 with the application of the power rule, 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. So, merong tayong certain number na magiging sagot, which is 625. Again, that's 5 times 5, 25 times 5, 125 times 5 is 625. That's how we answer example number 2. So did you get that? So let's try another example. So let's have your example number 3. So in example number 3, we do have here a given fraction 5 over 6 that was raised to an exponent outside. So 5 over 6 quantity raised to 3. So tatandaan ba yung power of a quotient? Power of a quotient rule. So sabi doon, when you do have a given fraction that was raised to an exponent, all you have to do is you just simply distribute the exponent on both numerator and denominator of it. So pag distribute natin siya, magiging 5 raised to 3 and 6 raised to 3. But again, just like example number 2, we do have here a base which is a constant. So that means when your base is a constant and it was raised to an exponent, that means we still need to simplify it. So meron kang 5 raised to 3. Ano ba yung 5 raised to 3? So using 5, 3 times as factors. That's 5 times 5. That would be 25 times 5. Is equal to 125. So how about on the denominator? We do have 125 on the numerator. On the denominator, we do have 6 raised to 3. That means we are going to make use 6 3 times as factors. That would be 6 times 6. That would be equal to 36. Then 36 times 6. So 36 times 6, that would be equal to 36 times 6, that would be equal to 216. So we do have 125 on the numerator and we do have 216 on the denominator. That's why when we simplify 5 over 6 quantity raised to 3, we'll come up with an answer which is 125 over 216. So we cannot anymore simplify it. It's because it's already the lowest term of it. Because there are no numbers already other than 1 which are both divisible to 125 and 216 or in GCF na tinatawag natin. Their GCF is already 1. So we cannot anymore reduce it into its simplest form or the lowest term. So next. So nasundan ba example number 3? So let's try another. Let's have number 4. For example number 4, we do have here 2 raised to 11 over 2 raised to 3. So we are here dividing expressions with the same base. Even though their bases are constant, still, we are here dividing expressions with same base. So ano ba yung sinasabi natin in dividing expressions with same base? Particularly the quotient rule. So ang sabi doon, when we are going to divide expressions with same base, we simply copy the base, then subtract the exponent. So pag ginawa natin yon, pag kinapi natin yung base, so that same base is 2, then subtract daw the exponent. What is 11 minus 3? That is 8. So magkakaroon ka ng answer na 2 raised to 8. And again, your base is a constant. So that means you still have to simplify it. So meron kang 2 raised to 8. That means you're going to make use 2 8 times as factors. So ilan yung 2 raised to 8? So bilangin natin. That's 2 times 2, 4 times 2, 8 times 2, 16 times 2, 32 times 2, 64 times 2, 128 times 2, that's 256. So that's why when we are going to simplify that expression in number 4 with the application of the quotient rule, we'll come up with an answer which is 256. Any questions? So para mas lalo pa nating maintindihan, let's try more examples. Let's have here another example. So let's have example number 5. So combination na to ng constant then variable. So we are here multiplying two expressions. So expressions involving constant and variables. So in multiplying it, so let's start multiplying the constant first. So in multiplying the constant, so since they are different, so simply multiply the constant. 5 times 3 will come up with 15. Then both of them, their variables involved are x and y. So even though on the second term natin, magkabaliktad yung x and y. So even though it's like that, still, titignan pa rin natin yung magkaparehas na base. Diba? When multiplying expressions with same base, we copy that same base, then we add the exponent. So simply multiply the numerical coefficient, that's 5 times 3, that would be 15. And when it comes to x raised to 6 here, and x raised to 8, and mayroon tayo on the other term. So copy that same base, so then add the exponent. So 6 plus 8, we do have 14. Then when it comes to y, so y here and another y here, di ba pag, when you do have a given variable without an exponent, so that means its exponent is equal to 1. So if its exponent is equal to 1, then another y here, so 1 plus 1 lang, we come up with y squared. That's why if you are going to answer or to simplify example number 5, we'll come up with an answer which is 15 x raised to 14 y raised to 2 or y squared. Again, we multiply the numerical coefficient, then we apply product rule when it comes to its variables because both of them has x and y. So x raised to 6 times x raised to 8. So 6 plus 8, that would be 14. And then y times y, which is y squared. So that's how we answer example number 5. Another, sample number 6. So the given is 4c cubed d quantity raised to 4. So we do have a term that was raised to an exponent outside. Diba? With the application of the power rule again, all you have to do is this exponent na 4 outside is to be distributed in each of the factors inside. So first, it will be distributed in 4. So magiging 4 raised to 4 to. Ano ba yung 4 raised to 4? And since your base is a constant, so you still have to simplify it. Ano ba yung 4 raised to 4? So that is using 4 times as factors. That would be 4 times 4. That would be 16. 16 times 4, that is 64. And what is 64 times 64? What is 64 times 64? 64 times 4 rather. 64 times 64. What is 64 times 4? That is 256. So 256 yung numerical coefficient mo na. But when it comes to the variable part, so just simply distribute the exponent. Ito ginamitan na rin natin ng combination to ng power rule and power of a product rule. Diba? When we do have an exponent inside, then another exponent outside, so just simply make use power rule. So then, power of a product rule, when you do have factors inside, distribute the exponent in each of the factors. So ginamitan natin ang power of a product rule. So that would be 4 times 3, that would be c raised to 12, then d raised to 4, or d raised to 1, that's 1 times 4, that would be d raised to 4. That's why we'll come up with an answer which is 256 c raised to 12 d raised to 4. So that's how we answer example number 6. So another example. Another example in number 7 is 2d over 7 quantity raised to 3. We already have an example like that on the first examples that we tackle, so that we answered. So what we are going to do, a combination to ng power of a quotient rule, at the same time gagamit tayo ng power of a product rule when it comes to the numerator part kasi 2 factors to. So di-distribute natin yan. Not only it is distributed in D but also in 2. Yung 3. So applying power of a quotient, distribute yung 3 on both numerator and denominator. So when it comes to the numerator, distribute it on both factors. So 2 raised to 3 muna. Since your base is a constant, 2 raised to 3, that means you are going to make use 2, 3 times as factors. That would be 2 times 2, that's 4, times 2, that would be 8. Then simply attach cube on the part of the variable. So we do have, since D here, i-distribute mo yung 3 sa D, so 1 times 3 yun, so we come up with D cube. Over 7. 7 yung denominator. Didistribute mo yung 3 on the denominator part. Magkakaroon ka ng 7 cube. 7 cube is not yet in simplified form. So that's why we need to simplify it by using 7 3 times as factors. That would be 7 times 7. That is 49. And 49 times 7. So what is 49 times 7? So that would be 343. So that's why we'll come up with an answer as 8d cubed over 343 as the answer to the expression in example number 7. So hopefully this time medyo nagigets na. But much better if you are going to answer more examples. So let's try another example. Let's have example number 8 here. So example number 8, we do have here 75a raised to 13 over 24a raised to 8. On the part of its numerical coefficient, even though 75 is not exactly divisible by 4, but we have to look on the GCF that is exactly both divisible to 75 and 24. So it is just like we are reducing that fraction into its lowest term. So ano ba yung lowest term ng 75 over 24? So both 75 and 24 are divisible by 3. So yung GCF nila ay 3. So ganun yung gagawin when it comes to the numerator part. But if it's exactly divisible, then just simply divide it. So 75 divided by 3, that would be 25. Then 24 divided by 3, that would be 8. So meron kang 25 over 8 na. Now, let's simplify the variable part. So on the variable part, so you are here dividing expressions with same base. Diba? When you are dividing expressions with same base, you simply copy the base, then subtract the exponent. So, copying that base A, then subtract the exponent. What's 13 minus 8? So, 13 minus 8 is equal to 5. So, magiging A raised to 5 na lang. So, wala ka na magiging denominator part because we already simplified the variable part of it. So, A raised to 5, magiging numerator part na lang siya. So, i-attach natin siya doon sa 25 over 8 na meron tayo kanina. So, magiging 25 A raised to 5 over 8 na lang yung nasa denominator part. Because we have already simplified A raised to 13 divided by A raised to 8 with the application of the quotient rule. So that's how we answer example number 8. So ganun natin ina-apply yung different laws of exponent whenever we do encounter expressions involving exponent. So just apply yung 5 laws of exponent. So kailangan hindi kayo malito kasi in one problem involving exponents, may mga times na hindi lang isang law of exponent yung gagamitin mo for in order for you to simplify expressions. Just like example number 6, diba dito? So you made use here of the two laws of exponent. Una, power of product rule, and yung pangalawa, yung power rule. So ginamit mo yung power of product rule and power rule for you to simplify this expression on number 6. On example number 7 naman, ginamit mo yung power of a product rule and also power of a quotient rule for you to simplify the expression in number 7. So that's how we apply the different laws of exponent. So yun yung mga may encounter ninyo na kailangan yung may apply yung different laws of exponent na dahilan kung bakit natin siya pinag-aralan. It's for you to apply it whenever you encounter expressions which involves exponents. So now, there are things here that you need to remember in order for you to recall or to simplify expressions with expressions involving exponents. So ito lang yung pinaka mga basic. So una, multiplication or the product rule na tinatawag natin. So sabi dito, to multiply powers with the same base, keep the base and add the exponents. So that's with the application of the product rule. Sabi, when multiplying powers with the same base, keep the base, copy the base, then add the exponent. That is what we mean by product rule. Pangalawa, division or the quotient rule. So yung quotient rule naman, to divide powers with the same base, keep the base and subtract the exponent. So sinabi natin kanya, di ba? When you are dividing expressions with same base, so just simply copy the base, then subtract the exponent. Then, yung pangatlo natin, we do a power of a power rule or power rule. So when a power has an exponent, keep the base and multiply the exponents. So, di ba? Kapag naka-encounter ka ng meron kang expression ng exponent na, tapos na-raise pa ulit to another exponent. So, all you have to do is you just simply copy that same base, yung base na yon, then simply multiply the exponent. But when your base is a constant, you still need to simplify it by expanding it or by using that base by using the base kung ilan yung number of its exponent. So that's how we simplify expressions involving exponents. So you have to remember these things. So I hope that you have already understand our lesson about different laws of exponent, and I hope that you will um, use it whenever you encounter expressions involving exponents. So that would be all for today. Goodbye, class.